The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to a very special NLCS preview edition of the Phixated podcast. I am your host, Mike Azalina, and I'm joined by a guy who I will be golfing with in 6 days. Regz Boo, not only will you be at NLCS Game 4, but I mean, maybe we'll be listening to a Game 5 while we're on the course. Maybe we won't need that. I don't know. How you feeling, bud?
It's going to be a long couple days. Not complaining, by the way. Just to quickly go over, first of all, just you saying that we get to play golf together gets me all hot and bothered. So very excited about that. But yeah, it's going from 7:45 the night before into meeting my wife in Delaware somewhere to drop off my son who has baseball the next day. Then I'm going to drive to our buddy's house in Wildwood to then play golf all day. And hopefully, like you said, hopefully I see them sweep the Padres and we don't have a game to listen to. But if we do, we will be listening on my phone for the entirety of that scramble that we're in.
I am not out of the world of getting to that game on Saturday night, by the way. Like I tried all morning this morning to get tickets. It kept kicking me out. Like I got in and then it would boot me out. And then it was like, oh, you can go back in, but then it wouldn't let me click on the place where I wanted to sit. And then it ended up just being sold out. So I'm not out of the secondhand world of this yet. Like I'm not counting myself out. I'm going to keep eyes on it.
They released some extra standing room only like a few days after it was sold out the last couple games. So like there's a chance you can still get in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna count myself out of it yet. Like I'm just not there because I mean, look, if they get back home and we get a chance to, you gotta, after what I experienced on Saturday afternoon, there's no way I can.
We're gonna be up in in Azzy neck of the woods for Game 4. We are up in 331.
You're not really in Azzy. I'm 421.
All right. I don't even know where 330. I don't even know where that is.
No, I don't know either.
I sound like such a prick by saying that I don't know where the 300 level is, but
I mean,
I've been very spoiled with these tickets that my mother-in-law graciously got us 12 years ago.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I saw somebody today, and then we're going to bring in our guest. I saw somebody today say, they should offer these tickets to the people who have been at most of the games over the last 10 years. And I was like, well, I would say, yeah, absolutely. But they did offer them to me and I blew it. So
did you figure out what happened with that?
Yeah, my cousin gets the emails because he technically started getting them.
Yeah.
And he just totally forgot to send me the email.
Yeah.
So that's all it was. I think it's something that we're going to talk to them about when we renew in November, that we want every email to come to me.
Yeah.
Because again, he's not thinking about it. He's not a Philly fan.
I feel like that's an easy
he's in
switch.
Florida.
I
He's
feel
a
like that's an
Dodgers fan.
easy phone call.
Sorry,
for
Mike,
them.
about your luck that we're not seeing each other this week, but
yeah, I feel like that's an easy fix for the Phillies ticketing department. I think they'll be fine.
sucks that it happened, but
yeah.
But it happened, and I listen. I still got to go to an NLDS game, and I'm not far from. Again, as long as I'm not paying $400 for a ticket that's valued at $100, then I'm willing to go up to $250. That's kind of where my deadline is, and maybe by the end of the week things will kind of fizzle out, and they'll get back down.
I'll keep my ear to the ground for you.
Please do. And when we're talking about keeping our ear to the ground, one thing we're not going to have to do tonight, volume-wise, is keep our ear to the ground for our guest. So I'm going to bring him on in. He came to do a pre-season Phillies pod with us, and he did one in the middle of the year at the deadline with us. I don't know that we hit any deadline deals, but he did hit the was it the Schwarber or the Castellanos signing? Joseph, welcome Joseph to the show. Joseph is back for the NLCS preview. Bud, how the heck are you?
Guys, always a pleasure. I think it was it might have been the Cassiano sign.
I'm pretty sure it was. You cited the Dombrowski connection.
Right, exactly. And we're not going to go there to what I think about next offseason because we're in the playoffs. We're in the NLCS. And I was just talking to a friend of mine at work today, and actually two people, and the one, a close friend, teacher friend, he said I tried to get tickets and sold out, as Mike alluded to. Also, a Yankees friend, as her husband, a diehard Yankees fan, said, you win tonight or tomorrow with the rain. I don't know what's going on there, but you win.
You're gonna play, it sounds like.
Yankees win, Phillies win. Let's go 2009 because I'm ready for that. But yeah, guys, this is awesome, and thanks for having me on again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Always
so
a
we're
pleasure.
gonna kind of break this thing down a little bit by talking about what happened in the regular season, and then we're gonna dive into a little bit of a deeper look at both rosters and kind of match them up a little bit and talk through some of where each team kind of betters the other. But guys, it has been, and I didn't talk to this before the show, but so I'm going to kind of put you guys on the spot a little bit here. It has been 2009 since the Phillies have been in the NLCS. They did not get there the prior two seasons, unfortunately. And I want to briefly speak a little bit to just the overall memory that you have of those NLCS days. They played the Dodgers most of the time when they went, but your memories of the NLCS and some good memories that you have. Let's talk about that. I've got a couple, but Joseph, I'll start with you. Some memories about those NLCS games from the run that we had a chance to live through.
So this one's actually one that you'll probably even, I think we both can recall it. We were at one of our closest aunts, Aunt Wellens, right? When it was the 09, no, sorry, it might have been the 08 season when the Dodgers came to Philly, and watching it with our grandfather Regz. Rollins was up against Broxton, I want to say, and hit a ball in the right center field gap. And when he hit the ball, I said to Mike, I said, he's gonna get a triple out of this. He's gonna get a triple. That meant something just because we converted my grandfather from a Yankees fan all his life into a Phillies fan just because of all the memories we've had. And then he ended up calling Shane Victorino the little guy. So that was like a special memory. Always remember. As far as the games and what I think we've shared was that team back then in 08-09, that might have been one of the most talented teams we've ever watched. From A to Z, right? Starting with the pitching staff and Hamels, and at that point it was Cliff Lee as we got him, but Jamie Moyer, Brett Myers in there, whether he was in the rotation or in the bullpen, Brad Lidge, Rollins, Utley, Howard, Rui, Chooch, like all those guys, Charlie Manuel, Burrell, keep on going. But I just think we were like really spoiled those years, and you know what? With all the losing we saw throughout before, I think we were really we were due that, right? So I think there are a couple things for sure and then Matt Stairs' home run in 08. That might have been one of the, and Michael always talks about it, Regz. A moonshot that never landed, as Joe Buck had to give us a little more credit than gosh forbid he would want to. The other thing I have to say, though, because I would really not forgive myself for not saying it, is in 2008, I worked at the Iron Pigs, and I actually got to be in a concession stand with one of the announcers, and we had the people that had season tickets to watch the games, and we watched like Chase Utley homer in Tampa in 08. So those memories I'll never forget.
And I do have to, Regz, before I turn it over to you, I have to make a correction. It wasn't 09. They lost to the Giants in the NLCS in 2010. So that's probably why I said 09, because bad memory of 2010. Not many great memories from that series, unfortunately. So, but any memories that you want to point out, Regz?
I mean, there's the obvious. The stairs one is the first one that everyone's going to bring up. The picture that Azzy has over his right shoulder. I think, but I also remember, Joseph, like you talked about, like the game during the regular season where Jimmy gets that. I think, did he win the game on that? Didn't they have a game-winning hit off Broxton?
That was the 09
okay,
NLCS.
I'm mixing them up.
That
Okay,
was the 09?
but anyway,
It was the 09 NLCS.
Rollins has a leadoff home run in one of the games in 08, and it just Broxton was like the sort of like the belle of the ball of that season. He's like this big dude coming out throwing 98, 99, and in particular, Jimmy Rollins was not afraid of that dude. And to have that guy as your leadoff hitter, and again, you can just talk about, if you want to talk about just like size difference, Broxton's this ginormous, like 6'3", probably 270-pound guy. Jimmy Rollins is all of what, 5'9", and 185 pounds probably. So just the contrast there, and the way that the 08 team was never afraid to go on the road. They weren't afraid in Dodger Stadium. They didn't believe in themselves any less going into Dodger Stadium. So I just remember the utter confidence, and then just you could almost hear that backbreaker sound when Stairs hit that home run. Like, it wasn't like the pop of the bat. You heard like a, and you just knew that was it. Like, we had sort of conquered that team that, for that season.
Yeah, that, by the way, he signed this, and it doesn't just have a signature. He inscribed it, "Good night, LA," which is hilarious.
Fantastic.
And not to, I certainly don't want to take away from that Matt Stairs home run.
No, sure.
The Shane Victorino home run that happened in that same inning.
Yep.
Was just enormous.
Yeah.
Like, just absolutely enormous. I can't remember if it tied the game or put him ahead or not. It didn't put him ahead. The Stairs one put him ahead. I can't remember if it tied the game or brought them within a run or two. Either way, it was a huge home run. That wasn't my favorite memory from that NLCS. I would share the Jimmy Rollins walk-off with you guys for sure from 09. But 08, I was at game 2 in Philly when Brett Myers went 3 for 3.
Yeah.
And Brett Myers is not remembered for going 3 for 3. He's remembered for the big walk against Sabathia that led to the grand slam. But he went 3 for 3 in game 2 against former Philly great. And see if you guys remember this name, Chad Billingsley.
Of course.
But he he went 3 for 3, and Shane Victorino made a leaping catch against the alcove there in left center field. And obviously they went on to win that game pretty handily, but that was the day that Charlie Manuel found out his mother passed away. And again, it just felt like Team of Destiny stuff, that vibe that we're getting from this team right now. Regz, you mentioned not being scared to go on the road. Well, this Phillies team certainly not scared to go on the road. Went to baseball heaven and swept out a Cardinals team, and then went to Atlanta. And look, I know what happened in the 9th inning of that game, but dominated Atlanta there, and then only gave up 3 runs because of a couple of 45-mile-an-hour exit velocity singles and a bad play by Reese. But aside from that, the Phillies just took a dump all over the defending world champions. And they don't have a scared vibe. Again, I was watching them. I mentioned this on the last episode, watching them play loose today on the field, messing around, playing pepper, like high school baseball stuff. And this team just has this vibe about them right now. We know their journey. I just talked about it. Beat St. Louis, then beat a division rival. Well, the team they're playing out in San Diego had a very similar journey. They beat a team from across the country, a team that we know and hate, the New York Mets. Beat them in 3 in New York, and then took on their own division rival, almost their own kryptonite, the same way that Atlanta is Philly's kryptonite, and beat the Dodgers. And, everybody, Regz, we've gushed over the Dodgers quite a bit on this show, But San Diego went in there and just beat them. I mean,
listen, all credit to the Padres. They just beat 200 plus game winning teams.
Yeah.
In back-to-back series. And I would have said they could beat the Mets regardless of the Scherzer DeGrom, just because I thought the Mets were just coming in on such a low point.
Mm-hmm.
If you had told me they're beating the Dodgers, you would have had to convince me a lot.
Yeah.
Like, that Dodger team is they're just so damn good.
You know, someone said to me, or I read it the other day, and then we're going to dive a little bit into the regular season schedule and get a couple of thoughts here from Joseph. But someone said the other day that, and I'm going to talk about this in my Phixated, so I'm not going to go too deep into it. You know, regular season baseball is built on depth, right? Like, you are built on depth when you're in the regular season because it's such a long haul.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes those teams struggle a little bit more in the postseason because you don't use the depth as much. You know, the Phillies aren't going to go ahead and pinch hit for a Bryce Harper. They're not going to pinch hit for a JT Realmuto. And the Dodgers aren't going to do that either.
Yeah.
The other Achilles heel that the Dodgers have, and where the Padres really kind of outshine them and quite frankly outshine the Phillies, is in that starting rotation.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't scared of a lot of guys in that LA rotation outside of maybe Urias, who's still not like dominant. Whereas there are a few guys in this Padre rotation that are. So
it's almost like, and I only make this analogy because I just watched that Redeem Team doc on Netflix.
Yeah.
It's almost like the Dodgers were those like early 2000s Olympic teams where they just threw a bunch of talent at the wall. And I don't know, like, again, when you look at sort of the Padres compared to the Dodgers, and I've been thinking about this just in watching the highlights of the games and like the interviews and things like that. Like, the Padres just look like more of a team.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Dodgers, you can't deny the talent that they've put together on that team.
Right.
It's undeniable. But for some reason, of all people, freaking Manny Machado has like been able to bring this Padres team together after all the Tatis stuff. Bringing in Juan Soto, like, you know, he's been able to like keep this team together and, like you said, keep them believing in themselves like the Phillies have been able to do. Correct. So there's a lot of similarities there. And just watching that doc made me think of that analogy that the Dodgers are like those early 2000 Olympics teams. Like, let's just see if we can throw all the talent in the world on one team and see what can happen. But they just, for some reason, it's been a little bit off, like chemistry wise. And I don't know what the reason for that is. I don't follow them closely enough, but it's just the analogy just like formed in my head as you talked about it. And it seemed so perfect.
Right. And you know, I think, again, one of the things that we're going to talk about here in a moment is just how these two teams matched up.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think that they've just had very similar storylines.
Yeah.
You know, as they head into these playoffs, you know, two underdog teams, two teams that barely made it in. You know, two teams that, you know, they have that superstar power in a couple of different places on the roster. But again, they've traveled a very similar journey, and so I'm going to turn to Joseph here before we get into the nooks and crannies of their season matchup. Joseph, what other similarities do you see between these two teams, and even if you want to highlight a difference before we jump into how they matched up in the regular season?
Well, I do know that the teams have a bunch of veteran players, you know. So San Diego's got Will Myers, somebody not that he's really great anymore, but he's still an average, a decent player with a good arm, and he can hit a little bit. You know, Josh Bell's really interesting for me. You know, whether you DH or play him at first base, he gives you that switch hitter. You know, the Phillies know him real well from Pittsburgh and Washington.
Kills us.
Oh my God.
Right. He might end up. I'll tell you right now, no spoiler here, just the fact that I have no idea what's going to happen, like all of us, right? But he really could be an X factor for them. You know, even against our bullpen, right? You know, you bring in a guy, you know, he probably hits better from the left side, if I remember. Usually most switch hitters do.
Yeah.
And he's got the power. So, you know, you could bring in like a Falter to face him from the right side. I can see that happening. But man, oh man, our righties better be on because he's tough. He's tough to face. And again, it will show why Thompson comes back for 2 more years, as I think we're all thrilled about that. Jerks and Profar. Michael's liked him for a long time. That name rings in my head. A very good player, good bat, good speed. That's the one thing I think the Padres have over the Phils a little bit is Profar and Trent Grisham, who I just saw today on MLB Network. That he's saying we're playing with a lot of confidence. We know the Phillies are good, but we have confidence in ourselves. He's a very good defensive player. He's swinging the bat really well. And the other similarity they have is 7, 8, and 9, just like our 7, 8, and 9 are hitting the ball really well.
Yeah.
So maybe it'll come down to the daycare crew and Bowman, Marsh, and a guy like Mr. Stott, who's becoming one of my favorite players. Who has big moments and works the count. Holy moly, does he work the count? So that's a couple of things I've thought about, and it's going to be a heck of a series, guys.
Yeah, so let me just run through here what went down in the regular season. So the Phillies played or hosted San Diego in May. They lost. They dropped 2 out of 3. The first game they lost 3-0. Garrett Clevenger went 5 innings, and then they went to Mackenzie Gore, who they no longer have as a weapon out of that pen because they traded him in the deal that brought them Juan Soto and Josh Bell, the aforementioned Josh Bell. So we won't have to worry about Mackenzie Gore, thank God. But Clevenger did go in on them a little bit. Game 2, Wheeler and Snell matched up. The Phillies knocked Snell out early, 3 2/3. I think he was just coming back from injury at that point, so that might have been why. But Wheeler went 7. Phillies won 3-0. Game 3 was Yu Darvish against Gibson, who hopefully we won't see in this series. And Darvish went 7 shutout. The Phillies, oddly, all 3 games were shutouts. In that series, that series I watched in its entirety. I actually had COVID during that series, so I remember watching every game of that series in our bedroom and being incredibly frustrated. That was when the team was really. I still remember after they lost the 3rd game of that series, watching JT and Nick Castellanos just staring at the field. Yeah, like you just knew something was off. And certainly in a couple of weeks after that, we found out exactly what that would be. They went to San Diego then toward the end of June, the last weekend there in June, and took 3 of 4. Ranger Suarez outdueled Musgrove. The Phillies dropped 6 runs in 6 innings on Musgrove. Ranger went 7 1/3 at Petco and held them to 2 runs. They came out the next night, lost 1-0 in an Aaron Nola pitched game. That was against Mackenzie Gore as well. Yeah. Again, we won't see Gore. The winning hit in that game was Aaron's brother Austin.
Yeah, that's right.
So really cool storyline in this series for sure. The third game was the game they lost Bryce Harper. Snell went 5 2/3 innings, gave up 4 runs. I think that was an Eflin pitched game. And then the next night was again, Joseph, you were at this game in San Diego. Gibson pitched that game. They got you for 3 runs and then got to the San Diego bullpen. I think Schwarber hit a 3-run home run to give them the lead in that game. They were down 5-3, and he hit a 3-run home run. So the Phillies took that series 4-3. But here are the keys to this. And then Joseph, I'll turn it to you and kind of talk to what you remember from being there that weekend. And Regz, anything that you want to highlight if you can think back to that season series. It's all so long ago now. But a couple of things to think about. There was no Juan Soto on this roster. There was no Josh Bell. Trent Grisham wasn't there, who has been a key for them in the playoffs to this point. And from the Philly side of things, that first series when they lost 2 of 3, that was a Joe Girardi run baseball team.
Yeah.
This is not a Joe Girardi run baseball team. This is a Rob Thompson run baseball team, and those are two very different things.
We need to designate after Joe or before Joe. Or like with Joe or something. We need a designation for when the game was.
Yeah. Well, they were lucky enough to be rid of Joe by that series in San Diego. So Joseph, I'll start with you. Anything that you remember from those series? I'll tell you this. I remember you being very tough on us the first series. I do remember us getting to him a little bit in the second one, but not really getting to him. just getting to him enough that he was out of the game. He is the game one starter for them. He's always been tough on us. Very nervous about that first game because we need to win the Wheeler start. But anything else that jumped out at you from those 7 games?
Well, like you said, the Phillies in Philly, that was, it's so long ago. It feels like just hearing what you had to say about it. I don't know if I remember too much from that. I will say this: in California, that Saturday night, I don't think I was ever so shocked or disappointed in the same breath that I see Bryce Harper clutching his wrist, swearing out to the mound, and getting taken off the field. And all I can think about, well, tickets at 1:30 tomorrow. I'm not seeing him play. No, listen, it was an awesome experience to be out there. I know, Mike, you've been out there, Regz. I'm not sure if you've ever been out to Petco Park.
No, I haven't been to that one.
It's a nice place surrounded by water, pop-up shops. But as far as the game goes, I was careful of what I said just because being around San Diego fans, but Kyle Gibson looked terrible that day. Nick Nelson, if I remember, came in first, and I was so happy to see Mr. Gibson exit. It was bad. I will say this too, though. Alfaro played. Now there is 2 parallels if you think about former, or what he said about Noah. He's not a Philly, but I mean as close as you're gonna get. He knows his brother inside and out. They played ball at LSU together. Jorge Alfaro's interesting here. Not that, I mean, Eflin knows him, I think, pretty well just because they kind of grew up in the system as Eflin was traded for Rollins. Alfaro in that big trade with the Texas Rangers. Nick Williams, one of those names. How about Nick Williams? Think about that guy. But just going back to the history, that's the can't think about the Padres series in Philly. Alfaro's a good power hitter. He's come a long way. It'll be interesting to see what they do there because they have Noah too. That game, I'm pretty sure they both played. So one of them DH'd. So we'll see what they do there. And like I said before, it was a good game that day. Schwarber hit a bomb to left field. In fact, it might have put them up at that point. I want to say maybe it was like 5-2. As Mike said, it was 6-4. Or no, 8-5, I'm sorry. So it could have been like, I can't remember the exact, but I do know he hit a bomb to left field and I was on my feet. There's a lot of different things to go over here tonight, and we're gonna keep hearing it during the series. And it's awesome that 2 powerhouses are out and they're calling them 2 Cinderellas. It feels like March Madness already, guys.
Regz, I'm going to turn to you here. A couple of things that Joseph said that I have to highlight this. I just looked back at the Phillies starting lineup that series in May.
Okay, this is going to be fun.
This is what Girardi did with the lineup that day.
Oh.
Leading off, Rhys Hoskins.
Jeez.
Alec Bohm batted second. Nick Castellanos hit third. Gene Segura hit cleanup. JT Realmuto hit fifth. This must have been a Harper day off.
Yeah.
Schwarber hit sixth. This might have been the first elbow when we found out about his elbow. Camargo was playing shortstop and hitting seventh. Odubel was playing left and hitting eighth, and Roman Quinn was hitting ninth and playing center field.
Good God.
That was the game they won in Philadelphia. That was the game they won in Philadelphia. So, and I was wrong. Trent Grisham was on this team. He was on this team in May.
We're going to talk about him in this next comparison thing. I don't know if you'll think of all the stats that they bring up, but it's interesting.
Well, let me ask you this, Regz. Just looking at that lineup and thinking about where the Phillies have come from.
That lineup's terrible.
I just want your thoughts on I guess just talk about the journey, right?
There's only one thing to talk about. Joseph brought it up. It's the young guys. Mm-hmm. Girardi refused to give these guys a chance to play. Mm-hmm. And just think about what they're doing without the first 2.5 months of the season.
Right.
I get it. Stott played here and there, but he didn't give these guys the confidence that they have now. that Rob Thompson has been able to give them in a relatively short while, baseball wise.
Yeah.
Just think if they had this approach from the beginning. Like, you're not seeing Roman Quinn in center field. You're seeing Matt Vierling.
And Brandon Marsh, who wasn't here to be fair.
Fair. So that's what I mean. You're probably seeing Vierling in center field since Marsh wasn't here yet. But like, you're seeing Stott at shortstop, not Camargo.
Or Didi.
Yeah, or Didi, right.
That was
again, it was a Bryce day off, so the whole DH, I'm sure Schwarber was DHing, obviously, and Odubel was playing left field, but it's just that's the thing. That's the biggest thing that I think of is that what could these guys be if they had 2 more months? Kudos to them for coming up and getting ready so quickly and now being given the opportunity to and taking advantage of it. But Girardi's stance on like, I'm not going to play these guys, especially with how bad they were playing. It's like, what do you mean? What are you afraid of? Playing worse? Like, is that even a possibility? And we kind of saw it with Stott having like a terrible start to the season in his just sort of spotty play.
Right.
And we had talked about it back then, Azzy, that we always talk about Stott sort of what pitches he swings at.
Yeah, his swing decisions are fantastic.
They were terrible in the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
Like a complete 180 to how even he approached the plate in the minors. So that's just what sticks out to me when you talk about that lineup. Is just like Girardi's, again, we talked about these stupid rules that he had for no reason. Joe, no one is making up these rules, man. Only you were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they destroyed the confidence of this team from top to bottom.
Right. And I mean, but like at the same time, when we talk about the differences in our lineup, when I look at the Padres lineup, like it's a very complete lineup now.
Yeah.
I mean, very complete now that you stick Juan Soto there at the top of that order next to Manny Machado. That's just terrifying.
Yeah.
You got to go through those 2 guys every time the lineup turns. That's far more terrifying to me, at least, than, Acuna and Swanson. I think Acuna played one of the worst series of baseball that I've seen in a long time. And Juan Soto, every at bat is a freaking grind against that guy. So, let's dive into that now. MLB did a position by position comparison.
Yeah, that's right.
Regz has that in front of him.
Yep.
Joseph and I have not seen it. So here's what's going to happen. Regz is going to give us the position. I'm going to pick who I think has the head up. Joseph's going to pick who he has the head up, and we'll alternate.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about it.
So I'm going to give you
ties, then Regz will do the tiebreaker.
Yeah, I'm going to give you the position, and I'm going to give you the player that they're highlighting for that position, so that we have the full kind of context.
That's fine.
If it's in defense, is it both things?
Yeah,
yes,
it's everything.
Yes, everything.
Everything.
Yep,
everything.
All right. So
and Joseph and I will alternate. So I'll let Joseph. Are you starting with catcher?
Yes.
All right, we'll let Joseph go first.
All right. So starting with the backstop. Catcher, obviously, JT Realmuto. They are putting Austin Nola here. They are not talking about Alfaro.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, Nola's played a majority of the playoffs for them. So
that makes sense.
Just to give you the context, that's the comparison.
You just want me to give the name, right? Don't say anything about the player.
No, yeah, name and a reason. Yeah, give us a reason.
Yeah, you can give a reason. Yeah.
All right. JT Realmuto, for sure. I didn't have to think about this one. We traded him. We traded for him back a couple years ago because they knew how good he was with his speed and his defensibility, the way he throws guys out. And now he's put together another year of coming back and bouncing back with the bat. JT Realmuto is another one of my X factors for this series. And I will say this, if they can get to the World Series, I think he's a huge, huge player in it all. He shuts down running game, and that's the thing. I have JT Realmuto, and it's not even close.
Yeah, I mean, Austin Nola has made himself into a good player. There's no doubt about that. But JT Realmuto is going to be in an MVP conversation this year for Major League Baseball. Like, coming from where he was at the beginning of the year to what he's done since Toronto, Regz and I ripped him apart on this show.
Oh, my God.
And he is...
Me in particular. I asked if the contract was worth it.
He has been an absolute revelation offensively and defensively. So, yeah, JT, there's no question.
All right,
there.
I think I'd like to do this. I'm going to read very quickly what MLB.com said about it because I think it'll just add some good context. So, okay, catcher. The Phillies have the consensus all-around best catcher in baseball in Real Muto, and he's at or near the top of his game. We should take a moment to credit, as he said, San Diego's Austin Nola, who has 8 hits in the postseason so far and has caught every inning for a pitching staff that has shut down some of baseball's best offenses. But he's not quite Real Muto on defense, and he's nowhere near him on offense. Praise Nola as you should, and then realize his brother throws to the best there is. Phillies.
Austin Nola is a very good catcher.
No, listen.
Don't get lost in that. But he's not JT.
No.
Not many are.
And like you said, give credit where it's due. He's had some timely hits. He's been again managing a lineup that has just beat 200+ win teams. So credit where it's due. All right, up next, first base.
Yeah.
Mr. Michael, we will start with you.
All right, is it Hoskins and Myers?
Oh yeah, I apologize. So yes, we have Rhys Hoskins, and then it says they've gone through Hosmer, Voit, Josh Bell, Brandon Drury, but position finally circling back to Will Myers. So yes, Will Myers.
So, I mean, look, Will Myers was once a really highly touted prospect in Tampa. Like the guy can certainly swing it. However, he hasn't been swinging it in the NLDS. Very similarly to Rhys Hoskins, he was actually worse than Rhys in the NLDS offensively.
If you can imagine.
If you can believe it. I think he was hitting under 100. Rhys was like up around like 150, 160 in the NLDS. Additionally, he's putrid defensively. He was bad in the outfield. He might be even worse at first base. This is closer than what I'm making it seem, but I'm saying Rhys just on pure, like, he's actually a natural first baseman. Will Myers is not. And Will Myers has a hole. He has holes in that swing. He has a ton of holes in that swing. I don't think this is this is not JT and Austin Nola. It's probably more like this than anything. And I mean, I could be swayed, but I think for the conversation's sake of where we are with both of these guys, I go Rhys here.
Yeah. Any other thoughts, Joseph?
Well, I'm going to go Rhys too, and Michael's going to laugh just because I've wanted to trade Rhys to California a lot during his career. But no, listen, the fire he showed the other night, and I try not to belabor points about like team chemistry and this and that, but Rhys Hoskins is a team guy, and the way he showed the fire and ran around the bases like Chase Utley on Friday afternoon, I thought it just showed the passion he has for Philly and his teammates. That being said, Will Myers is a heck of an athlete. He, like Michael said, he definitely played not even just Tampa. He played Kansas City was, I think, another team he played for. Played good outfield and right and left. At first, I haven't seen a lot of him. I'm kind of surprised Bell isn't there. I guess maybe he's the DH possibly. But I will say this. I'm taking Hoskins just for his 30 home runs and knocking in all the RBIs he does. When Rhys is going good. And just can't strike out as much. But I got Hoskins.
All right, MLB.com agrees with you. So Rhys Hoskins seems perpetually underrated, perhaps because he never hits for a high average and isn't a strong defender. But he did the same thing in 2022 that he does pretty much every year. He hits between 25 and 30 home runs while being between 25 and 30% better than league average overall per OPS plus, which is a pretty valuable player. The Padres, meanwhile, have gone through Eric Hosmer, Luke Voit, Josh Bell, and Brandon Drury at the position before finally circling back to Will Myers, who was the team's primary first baseman back in 2016-17, but had barely played there in years since. Myers is solid. Hoskins is better. All right. Up next, second base, Joseph. Right here, they have Gene Segura, and they have Jake Cronenworth.
Right? Jake Cronenworth. Yep. Okay.
What are your thoughts, bud?
This is a tough one. Again, I go back and forth with Segura. He plays great. He plays very good defense. He hits the ball well. You can put him 2 through 2, 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever you want to do with him. Consistent hitter. I've seen more of a passion for his teammates when he came back from injury this year, and I've really grown to like him a lot. I'm gonna have to go Cronenworth here, though. Jake Cronenworth has been such a pivotal part to these Padres teams, and he could be an X factor, as we talk later too. That He's just a very good hitter. He's gonna get on base. He's gonna make plays in the field. It hurts, but I have to be unbiased here, and I go Jake Cronenworth at second base.
So Jake Cronenworth had a huge hit the other night in that clinching game.
Yep.
Huge, enormous. I wrote him down when I first started going through this, but my gosh, Gene Segura's been so good this postseason. Like, he's been so good. It's really hard for me to go against him. And I'm, trust me, I definitely have a bunch of Padres written down, but I'm second guessing myself a little bit at second base. I think Segura defensively is really valuable. Cronenworth's a really good defensive second baseman. If I could push here, I would.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Segura and just see what our tiebreaker says, Regz.
All right. Well, we're going to use MLB.com as the tiebreaker.
Okay.
What does that say about second
So
base, though?
here we go.
Interested in this.
So finally, a matchup we have to think about a little. Pretty good one from MLB.com. Gene Segura has been consistently solid the past 3 years with a 108 OPS plus, similar production across each season. Plus, he's a shortstop playing second base, so his defense is good enough. Jake Cronenworth, though, has been slightly better in that span, 119 OPS plus, as well as in each individual year. Although his 2022 is his worst season, 113 OPS plus, it is still better than any year Segura had in that time. Cronenworth is also a good fielder and is capable of playing shortstop. There's not a lot of separation here, though Cronenworth's somewhat better offense has us leaning that way. Mostly, if we had to pick which one we're sending up to the plate in a big situation, we're choosing Cronenworth. So MLB.com gives the edge to the Padres.
All right. That's
a very
fine.
slight
That's
edge, I will say.
Yeah, that's fine. It makes sense. I mean, I had him written down. I talked myself into Segura. I don't know. There's something about him right now, and I feel like he's gonna have a big series for some reason. I just have a weird feeling.
Listen, going 3 for 4 in that last game was great.
Yeah, I just have a really weird feeling.
It was the Gene.
Also don't intentionally.
Yeah, go ahead, Joseph.
Also, don't intentionally walk anybody before it.
Yeah, don't make Gene mad. Is what you don't do.
You just don't do it.
Listen, I think, just my 2 cents, I think I would pick Cronenworth just because I think he's been a little more consistent in the playoffs. Gene obviously came back from that injury and was not himself, but I'm really hoping that last game, going 3 for 4, like 2 singles and a double, getting those hits up the middle like Gene does, stealing a base again. Like, I'm hoping that kind of got him back to being Gene.
Yeah.
But a very close matchup, as you both have said. All right, next up, shortstop.
Oh, they go shortstop next. Okay.
They do go shortstop next. Yep.
Okay.
So, shortstop, Bryson Stott versus,
Mm-hmm.
where the hell is it? Kim.
Kim, yeah.
Yeah, Ha-Sung Kim.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, both had a pretty rough offensive go so far. I mean, obviously Bryson had the big at bat. Kind of led to a lot of runs.
That's tough. That's tough.
I mean, I know how good Kim is defensively. I mean, he's a wizard at shortstop. And honestly, he does lead off for them. I know, again, he hasn't been great offensively. This is probably the position that, like, I'm struggling with the most, just from like it's hard to pick one or the other. I think just I'm gonna go Kim.
That is not what I thought you'd say.
I think because when it comes down to it, if they're both going to struggle offensively, his defense, he's a wizard at short, man. Yeah. He's an absolute wizard. Wait till you watch this dude play shortstop. Everything looks easy. And he's replacing their best player. He's playing for their best player. And I think he had a pretty decent run at us. You know, he's playing third, I believe, in the series earlier in the year. So I don't know. That's really a coin toss for me. But I'm just based on defense alone. I'll say Kim. I don't know that I necessarily agree with myself. But
what are your thoughts, Joseph?
All right, so I know how good Kim is too, and Michael made good points there. But all right, I said it before. I love Bryson Stott, and Bryson Stott has shown me that, you know, on the play. And again, you can look back to the big home run against AJ Minter, which was enormous for this. I mean, just a huge moment. He's not scared of the big moment. The greatest at bats I remember of just fouling balls off, taking pitches, and going the other way. But what really has impressed me about Bryson Stott is his poison at shortstop. You know, Kim's had more experience, so it's fine to say that. There's no doubt about it. But when you can have Alec Boehm, like a beast dive in front of you, and you still make the play the other day, that again shows you the concentration and focus he has. He can make the athletic play. He can make the play going back. Bryson Stott's be an all-star for years to come, and he's just getting started. I have to go homer here. I'm going Bryson Stott.
All right. To the article we go. All right. If you have told Padres and Phillies fans before the season that they'd be facing off in the NLCS, but that Fernando Tatis Jr. and Didi Gregorius would not have been the shortstops or on the rosters, you would have fielded many questions. Needless to say, having Bryson Stott and Ha-Seong Kim at shortstop wasn't exactly the plan on either side, but it's worked out okay. Stott's unimpressive season line, 84 OPS plus, is colored by a terribly poor start to his major league career. After posting a 188, 255, 307 first half slash line, he offered 276, 331, 404 slash line as the regular shortstop in the second half. Kim was more competent than excellent, 107 OPS plus with the bat, but he's a stronger fielder than Stott, which is enough for an edge here, a small one. They give the edge to the Padres.
Yeah, it makes sense.
A true toss-up there, I think. Like a true kind of coin flip.
I agree. That's why I said I had a really hard time with
but
that.
I think you guys and them are absolutely right. The fielding is an advantage to Kim.
Yeah.
All right, third base.
Well, we're not going to spend a whole lot of time here. Alec Boehm has been good. Alec Boehm has improved.
It was Joseph's turn.
Oh, my bad. Go ahead, Joseph.
I cut off the host for you, Joseph. Never say I didn't. I'm not on your side, buddy.
My bad.
It's all good. Yeah, well, Alec Boehm is a good player. He's arrived and he's been better defensively this year than I think we all can imagine. I think he's done the work. I think he's confident more in himself. He's throwing the ball well. That all being said, Manny Machado's an absolute monster. and it's funny because he still might not win the MVP because there's a guy named Goldschmidt in St. Louis that might win it. Listen, there's no two ways about it. If there's one guy you don't want beating you this series, and I mean, don't let him see a fastball in the middle of the plate, it's Machado. And again, it's not really close. Yeah, Machado in my sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really have much to add. I love Alec Boehm. And I think, when you compare stars, if you're comparing Harper and Machado, we're having a much different conversation. But when you're comparing Alec Boehm, who is going to be a solid major league player, but he's not Manny Machado.
Yeah.
This is not even a conversation.
Yeah. Manny Machado might be the best third baseman any of us have seen.
Yeah.
Like
and
actually play baseball.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
yes.
I'm not even going to read it because obviously they agree with you guys. So let's just move on to the next one. All right, left field. This is Profar and Schwarber. Mr. Michael, you have the floor.
Joseph mentioned it. I love Jurickson and Profar. I wanted Jurickson and Profar to be a Philly back in like 2012. I love Jurickson and Profar. And he's really had a good start to the postseason for sure, whereas Kyle Schwarber is not. Profar is much better defensively than Schwarber is out there in the outfield. And Profar was a shortstop initially in his career. He's moved around quite a bit. That being said, I mentioned Segura having a big series.
Oh boy.
I think this is the Kyle Schwarber coming out party for the Phillies.
It is.
I really believe Kyle Schwarber is going to, and I know MLB.com is going to take Profar because of the strikeouts, and they're going to take Profar because of the defense. But Kyle Schwarber brings game-changing potential every time he steps to the plate. Literally every time this dude steps to the plate, I know how much he was struggling in the Braves series, and I still thought every time he came to the plate he was going to put a ball 12 rows deep into right field.
Oh my God, it's all I wanted every time that guy came up to the plate.
I'm taking Schwarber here solely because of the game-changing potential. And And I just think he's a big reason why this team is as close and tight knit as they are. Kyle Schwarber is my pick here, and this is coming from a guy who loves Jerks and Profar. I love the guy, but Kyle Schwarber is my pick.
Mike really likes Jerks and Profar. If we haven't, it's like it's a thing, and I do too. Athletic. I said his speed will hurt us probably a little bit. He's going to steal bases, although again JT may counteract that. He can hit a little bit too.
Good point. Very good point.
Thank you. He can hit a little bit too, and you know, Profar's a good player. But listen, man, was I one of the happiest Phillies fans, and Michael will tell you, when we signed Kyle Schwarber. They said in Chicago, there's a reason they win a World Series when he was there, and he's a leader. If people don't know, he's a son of a cop. You know, that's a discipline. That's a discipline that you don't always have. But that guy hits baseballs really hard. And so, I mean, maybe we might lack a little defense. We can throw Vierling or even Marsh over there at times if we want. But listen, this isn't even funny. Kyle Schwarber is definitely my pick, and I can't wait to hear what MLB Network has, because this would be the one we're both wrong.
No, MLB.com agrees.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
okay.
so let's read it.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Virtual pound.
That's right. It says a lot about both offense environment of 2022 and the ballpark that he calls home, that Jerks and Profar's modest 243, 331, 391 slash line was good for an 111 OPS plus, meaning 11% better than the league average. Of course, he didn't hit 46 home runs like Kyle Schwarber did. And even though Schwarber is a well below average fielder, Profar doesn't exactly rate well there either. Take the bat, take the homers. Edge Phillies.
Let's go.
All right, we'll take it. All right, let's move to center.
Yep, center field. Trent Grisham, Brandon Marsh. Joseph.
All right, well, you know I like to be a homer, but this one's a tough one. Brandon Marsh is a good player. He's shown us a lot already early in his Phillies career. Happy to have him, and he's a likable guy. The beard, the hair, the whole shtick. But Trent Grisham is a really good player. Listening to him tonight was interesting, and I'm on the show tonight with you guys, is that he gets full of confidence and hitting really well. He can play defense and also fast. I'm going Trent Grisham here.
Yeah, I think there's probably a conversation here. Not as far apart as JT and Nola are, but I think Brandon Marsh, if he had been a Philly all year, is probably closer to Grisham than what MLB is going to say or even what we're saying. Since coming to Philly, Brandon Marsh has been an entirely different human being on the baseball field. The guy hit over 300 in the NLDS. He had arguably one of the biggest hits in the NLDS.
Yeah, literally.
On Saturday afternoon. I still don't know. I watched the replay and I still don't know that I would have thought it was gone off the bat watching it on TV. But defensively, you know, you just mentioned, and I agree with you, Trent Grisham can go get it. Like, he can absolutely go get it. So can Brandon Marsh. This is not as far apart as what we're going to feel like it is based off of his playoff numbers, because Grisham playoff numbers has been off the charts. Regular season Trent Grisham, not great. So, you know, you're looking at two different things, but it's all about who's hot, right? Like Cody Ross back in 2010 in the playoffs, Cody Ross back in 2010 in the regular season are two very different people. So if we're going off of playoffs alone, I think it's closer. If we're going off regular season, Marsh might even have the edge. But right now, I feel like you got to give it to Grisham, and I feel like MLB is going to say the same.
All right, I know you agreed, but I want to read this anyway.
Yeah.
On one side, defensively talented center fielder who has not had a hot postseason at the plate, Trent Grisham, 1.329 OPS, who has had a hot season at the postseason at the plate. Sorry. On the other side, a defensively talented center fielder who has had a hot postseason at the plate, Brandon Marsh, 1.092 OPS. For anyone asking, did you even notice the role Grisham played in taking down the Mets and Dodgers? We did. But we also noticed the 184, 284, 341 slash line he put up in 524 plate appearances this year. And 1 week of excellent hitting cannot wipe away the memories of 6 months of below average hitting. It's not like there's a huge gap here. Marsh has had a 91 plus OPS this year, though better 116 OPS plus with the Phillies. But we're going to need to see Grisham back this up a little more before we're buying in. Edge Phillies.
Wow. Wow.
Thanks about
Okay.
that.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
I mean,
All right.
I'm not jumping in much here, but I think you put it so perfectly, Azzy. Brandon Marsh has been a different human being since coming over here to the Phillies.
Yeah.
Like,
That's a good.
he couldn't hit the baseball. What did you say his strikeout percentage was with the Angels? Like 40% or something?
It was 40%. Yeah.
Which
Doesn't
is
that kind of
crazy.
That's a good point, but doesn't that kind of give you the indication how good Kevin Long is?
Yes.
Boom.
Yeah, they knew.
You know?
They knew what they could get out of him.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think you talked about this on the trade deadline pod, Azzy. You said there's no way Dave Dombrowski doesn't talk to Kevin Long before they acquire this guy.
Yep.
And ask him, hey, have you looked, like, I asked you to look at him. What do you think?
Yep.
Like, can you turn it around? And obviously Kevin Long saw that sort of Bryson Stott-esque, right? Don't pick the leg up, just kind of turn on your front foot, you know, use your athleticism to catch up to baseballs. And it's been working. I'm not worried when Brandon Marsh comes up to the plate.
No. He puts together good at bats.
Yeah.
He's going to strike out.
Which when he came over to the team at first, he was still striking out a fair amount.
He's going to hit between 7 and 9 most times.
But listen,
but you also have this dude for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
It's Jason Worth reincarnated.
That's wild. That's what they did for that long.
That's what they did. They went and got Jason Worth 2.0.
Yeah.
That's what they did.
Yeah. So interesting from MLB.com there. All right. Right field, Soto versus Castellanos. Michael.
Yeah, I look, I mean, Nick was supposed to be the dude, and if he was the dude that we thought we were getting, and again, we've gotten a very good version of Nick Castellanos in the playoffs, but even with that really good version of Nick Castellanos, Juan Soto is terrifying. That guy, he intimidates me, and I'm sitting on a television, watching him on a television screen 3,000 miles across the country. When he takes a ball and glares back out at you, like I was gonna swing at that. Juan Soto has killed the Phillies for a long time. He did not kill them as much this year, but he was playing in a dead ballpark with a dead baseball team. And this is not that.
That was not locked in Juan Soto.
This is not that. And again, Nick Castellanos, if he plays well, could very well be Nick Castellanos that we wanted when we signed him to that big deal. At the same time, while Soto is not the best defensive right fielder, he's head and shoulders above Nick Castellanos out there. This one isn't very difficult. It's Juan Soto.
Any thoughts, Joseph?
Yeah, well, Castellanos is a good player. He's fun to watch. He's brash. He's a Philly type guy. We kind of all said that when he came over here. I give him credit for not complaining about playing right field a lot because, again, if we didn't have the DH, Bryce wouldn't have played at all. Yeah, Juan Soto is a generational player. Juan Soto is like, maybe this is a little too far, but I don't think I'm that far away. He's like Mike Trout left-handed. He's that good. He can really change a game. He can change your pitching strategy, and he hits bombs. So, yeah, and plays good defense, as Michael said too. Juan Soto, and by a big margin.
Yeah. MLB.com agrees with you, so we'll just move on. I agree with you too. That guy is freaking terrifying when he comes up to the plate.
And you know what? Joe Marie doesn't like him either.
Look, he was so out of it in those Nationals games. You could see it. He wasn't doing like the little shuffle on balls, The dude just was out. He was gone from that team.
Yeah, he didn't really care a whole lot.
2 months before they actually traded him. So to see a locked in Juan Soto is terrifying. It's terrifying. All right. Designated hitter. Josh Bell versus Bryce Harper. Joseph.
Oh, man. Well, listen. Thank God Bryce is healthy, right? That's number one. Josh Bell's a good player. I've always liked him. I liked him in Pittsburgh. I tell Michael, if we ever need a bat, which, again, we don't really need, but I would be a guy I like to see. I like his personality. He can hit balls from the right and left side, like we said. But, man, oh, man. In 2019, when I was trying to get a shower and I heard Natalie Eganoff from 97.5 sit there and go to Missinelli, oh my gosh, it's going to happen. I think I called Michael, texted my dad, went downstairs, run around the house. I am like on cloud 9. And so tonight, as I talk about this, I cannot not take the reigning National League MVP, number 3, Bryce Harper. Let's go.
All right. Well, I'm not going to give you the lineup version of it. I'm just going to tell you that there's not a player on the planet more locked in right now than Bryce Harper. And if you in the playoffs, you need a dude who's going to put you on your shoulders and carry you, and that's him right now. And I'm going to tell you right now. I know people have said it. We've even said it kind of jokingly. I don't know if we said it on the show or if we said it before we came on. This is a dude who's going to be out for blood because they took him 2 months out of his season. And he was on track for another MVP. Like, he was red hot when they hit him in the hand. He was red freaking hot when he got hit in the hand. And they took 2 months of his season away. So this is a dude who's gonna be out for blood, and he's a dude who carried them through the Braves series. Prime Bryce Harper turned 30 years old yesterday. Said he wasn't feeling great today. Hope that's because he was just being a jerk in his press conference and making people laugh.
He's fine.
I hope he's fine.
That was a hangover. That wasn't injury.
This is not what you don't have to ask. You don't have to read us crap.
No, I don't.
From the MLB article.
Yeah, no, we're just gonna
I
move
know
on.
how much Josh Bell kills us, but
No.
Bryce Harper's Bryce Harper.
Yeah, MLB.com agrees with you.
Yeah.
All right, starting pitching. Do you want me to? I don't know if we have to necessarily go through who they're picking here.
No, I don't think you do. Go ahead, Joseph.
Wait, so I'm just
Starting
doing it.
pitching.
Starting pitching overall.
Yeah, overall, yeah.
Yep.
Well, if it's Wheeler, Nola, Suarez, possibly Falter.
So what they say is Nola is
Syndergaard.
Wheeler. Yeah, Wheeler, Nola, Suarez, Syndergaard is what they have.
It's Musgrove, Snell, Clevenger.
Darvish.
Yes.
I mean, I've been saying all along that we need a 3. We don't have a 3. I would put Ranger at a 4. And you look at Darvish and the guys we just mentioned. I'm going San Diego. I'm going San Diego because I just don't feel that we have enough behind Nolan Wheeler.
Yeah, I think, if we're just talking about the top 2, it's Philly. I think they're top heavy. Like, I think those 2 are better than all 4 of San Diego's starters. I have a ton of confidence in Ranger. I think Rangers starting in Atlanta is a product of Atlanta being really good against left-handed pitching. And he just couldn't find the strike zone. I also think Ranger will be pitching at home in this series.
Yeah, that'll make a big difference.
And that'll make a big difference for him. All of that being said, I think when you look at the totality of the starting pitching, San Diego probably holds. But you know what? I'm switching here on the spot. I had San Diego written down. I'm gonna have a little fun. I'm gonna say Philly. I think again, top heavy. They're top heavy. I think Rangers fine. And Noah Syndergaard put together 3 really strong innings. I know it's only 3 really strong innings, but it was 3 really strong innings against a really good offense. And I think he could have gone for a 4th, depending on, where Topper was. I'm sure MLB picked San Diego based on the depth of the rotation, but all that matters is what you do in those first 2 games, and the Phillies come out those first 2 games with a win. They get Wheeler in game 5 at home too. So
I'm just going to read you the last 2 sentences of the MLB.com. Needless to say, there's not a lot of separation here, but we like the team with the better starter, Nola. And if it's worth anything, Philadelphia's rotation has been better in October so far. Edge Phillies.
Wow.
I mean, I like that, but the only words about Suarez, I told my list before, and I think most fans would agree in a way that he can't throw 80 pitches in the
Yeah,
fourth
we
inning.
need him to be locked in, Ranger.
It's gonna kill our bullpen so
Yeah.
much that in game 5 and 6. And by the way, I won't say this right now because I'll say it before we end the show. I just think the bullpens are going to be huge in this series.
Well, let's talk
Huge.
about that.
Let's talk about the bullpen.
Relief pitching. Relief pitching, Mr. Michael.
Is this me?
It is you.
Okay. All right. So I've been going back and forth on this one for a while here. Obviously we've come a long way in the bullpen, and I have a lot of confidence in our bullpen. I'm just looking at my notes here. Yeah, I just think at the end of it all, I think we're very similar. Like, Jose Alvarado has been awesome. Sir Anthony's been awesome. If we get Robertson back, great. Eflin, has been fine. And if you get Robertson back, you maybe take Eflin out of a little bit of those types of roles. Brad Hand was fantastic in the Braves series. Suarez for them is ridiculous. Hader, we know, although we ruined Hader's season.
Yeah, we did.
God, I hope that's in the back of that guy's mind.
Home and feeling.
Yep.
I have a feeling they're going to go San Diego here, but I'm going to go Phillies. I just think their bullpen has a ton of confidence. I actually have a push written down, but I know we can't do that. I'm going to say Philly. Joseph, what do you think?
Well, the first thing that jumps out of my mind, and it's not even to be funny, is Josh Hader is an absolute great closer. He's had a tough year. I had him in fantasy, and it was ugly. I finally traded him, but they do have Hill, who's decent, and they have, you said the guy's name now, it's escaping me, but they have him too. Listen, the one thing we've always complained about, even Regz with you too, at the last maybe year and a half, was the bullpen for the Phillies needed to get better. Well, we know it has. So Anthony Dominguez is a perfect guy in the very end of the games with Zach Eflin. Would have thought that, right? Brogdon can be in situations. Like Mike said earlier, let's ease up on it, though. Let's be careful. Alvarado, his ball moves better than anybody's ever seen in Major League Baseball. And we got guys like this, hopefully the first couple of games, the bullpen will have to be stressed a lot with Wheeler and Nola. I just think 3, 4, and 5 could be interesting. It's Phillies. I got to go Phillies here.
All right, let me just read you again the last paragraph. Of course, San Diego's bullpen was better in the regular season, better specifically in the second half of the regular season, and has been better in the postseason. Hader is the big name, but 31-year-old rookie Robert Suarez is the clear breakout star of the playoffs. He still has yet to allow a run at Petco Park. Don't sleep on the Phillies bullpen, but don't overthink which group is better. Padres.
Oh,
I gotta tell you, I'm curious, better in what sense in the postseason? Like that, they're just saying better. When I think about the Phillies bullpen in the postseason, they had the Eflin inning.
All right, yeah. So let me read you the paragraph before then. Maybe that'll give a little context.
I want to know what they're saying about the postseason.
On reputation and name value alone, this is clearly San Diego's advantage because the Padres have Josh Hader, who has clearly overcome his post-trade issues, and the Phillies do not. We should note that Philadelphia's bullpen is better than it gets credit for, in part because Zach Eflin has thrived in relief. Sir Anthony Dominguez has looked fantastic, and regular season names like Jeurys Familia, Corey Knebel, and Christopher Sanchez aren't going to be seen here. In the first 2 rounds of the postseason, Phillies relievers allowed a slash line of 198, 253, 383. If not quite an elite strength, the bullpen is at least not the anchor it seemed like earlier on. I mean, they seem like they're just really focusing on Hader as the closer.
Yeah, tell me that you haven't watched many Phillies games without telling me
they didn't even mention
Jose
Alvarado,
who's been one of the best relievers in baseball.
So they're purely focused on Josh Hader.
Also, Christopher Sanchez didn't pitch much in relief for the Phillies this year. So what'd they do? Just take the worst 3 Phillies relievers and
I think so.
Throw their names in? That's I don't know, man. I mean, I'm gonna write it down because that's what they said. But
before we do our predictions, let's see what MLB.com had to say. All right. Has anything gone according to plan this season or this postseason? Favorites are out, underdogs are in. If we're getting weird, and it seems like we are, then the most appropriate outcome of the first year of the newly expanded playoff field would be for a team that wouldn't have made it into the postseason 1 year ago to get all the way to the big prize this year. Phillies in 7.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, let me do this here. Let me do this real quickly. We took Phillies catcher, first baseman, left fielder, DH, starting pitcher, and relief pitcher. We took San Diego's second baseman, shortstop, third baseman, center fielder, and right fielder. Where we differed from Major League Baseball was center field and relief pitcher. Very slight favor to the Phillies on both, it looks like. at least position by position. And we know that doesn't matter at the end of the day. It's not what's on paper.
But it's
one
a
thing
fun
we didn't
exercise.
talk about,
It's a fun exercise.
Yeah, it was good. One thing we didn't talk about before we do keys to the series and predictions, is the manager. Bob Melvin is a really good major league manager. Really good major league manager. He's been doing it for a long time. Not his first rodeo. But it wasn't Brian Snitker's first rodeo, and Rob Thompson managed circles around Brian Snitker in the last series. Managed circles around him. All across the board. The guy outmanaged him top to bottom, start to finish in every way. That's not to say he's going to do that to Bob Melvin. But when I think about what he did in those last two games with the need for the bullpen and how he managed the bullpen in those last two games, Topper, what a fantastic job. I mean, we were watching Kenley Jansen out there in the 8th inning of a 4-run game.
Yeah.
What I don't know what happened, but certainly a great job by Topper. And I know it's not on there, but I obviously Melvin for experience reasons probably gets a slight edge there on Topper.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think Topper's right there. So okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna start. We're gonna start with Joseph on this one. Joseph, you got to give us a key to the series, and then your prediction, winner, and in how many games. You're up first, my dude. Regz, you're after him, and then me.
Yep, I got it.
Can I mention the manager quick? Because I had something.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. So, the one thing I've been saying a lot is that Thompson didn't have a lot of communication with the players, the young players, this, that, and the other thing.
Girardi, you mean?
Oh, I meant Thompson came in and did it right.
Yeah.
So if you think back to when everybody wanted Jim Leland and Cooley and myself when Manuel got hired, isn't it funny now the second manager that nobody thought about has a chance to take the Phillies to the World Series like Charlie Manuel did in 2008? Yep. So I just want to throw it out there because again, I would have not forgiven myself if I didn't mention that tonight because that's something I'll take. Again, I'll eat crow as my buddy Jody Max says on WIP. I will sit there and say I wanted Jim Leland, and I'm not. Listen, I wanted Girardi too, but I was again wrong. But I love Thompson. I love the way he communicates with the players. I love that he talks to Nick Castellanos. Who would have thought about that? Talk to one of your stars. Again, fired up about it. But yes, so key to this series on both sides. You want me to go with?
No, just give us a key. Just the key.
Interesting. Okay. Key to the series, I think, is the Phillies defense. I think they got to make plays all over the field. I think Reese has to be able to scoop the ball, pick up the ball, throw the ball, whatever, and not just say Malik Bone needs to be really good at third. Don't give up runs that maybe we couldn't get back. I love when I hear Regz talk about the Warriors and saying in the fundamentals, it doesn't end with a gut trip to go to the World Series in Major League Baseball. You got to have the fundamentals. And so I'm going Phillies defense, key to the series. The other one, well, no, not okay. So then we say that again because I lost
prediction.
Now we need your prediction, winner, and in how many games.
All right. Phillies in 6.
All right, they're gonna win it back in San Diego. Joseph says winning it back in San Diego. Okay. Regz?
Yeah. So my key opposite of Joseph's is the Phillies offense. If this team can continue to put up 8, 7, 8, 9 runs, and I think I'll break it down a little more specifically. I think this team is always capable of putting up a crooked number in an inning. But where we've seen this team lose those games is that they don't follow it up with anything. There's a random 4-run third inning, and then for the rest of the game, they get like 3 hits. In the Braves series, specifically the first game, the first, third, and fourth game, they not only got that crooked number, but they added on to it in later innings. They started out, obviously, game 4, a little rough, leaving a lot of runners on base. Left a bases loaded situation of first and third with no outs. Like, if this team can continue to not only put up the crooked innings, but then put up the follow-up, just 1, 2-run innings, to make that number 6 instead of 4. To go from 4-2 to 6-2 is a huge difference, especially in the playoffs. I just think if this Phillies offense can continue to add on to the crooked numbers that they've been able to get, that this pitching staff has proven that they can come in and maybe not hold the teams to nothing. I don't think we can expect to hold the San Diego Padres to 0. That's not an expectation that I have, at least.
Yeah.
But I think that we can win a lot of games if we score 6 or more runs. I think we can hold them to 3 or 4 runs. They're going to get theirs. They're too good of an offense to not.
Yep.
They're going to get theirs. But if this offense can continue to score how we have been, then we will put these games out of reach, even if we're going to give up 4 or 5 runs here or there. My prediction, not to follow Joseph, but I've had in my head this whole time is Phillies in 6. I think San Diego is playing too well right now that it's, in 5.
So my key is, which stars, parentheses, role players come to play. The Phillies and Padres are not short on star power. There are plenty of stars on these rosters. Obviously, Harper, Real Muto, Schwarber, Castellanos, Soto, Machado. Like there are just stars up and down these rosters. So yeah, which of those stars are going to come to play? But I've talked about it on this show, and I mentioned it in the Cardinal series, and I think I mentioned it even heading into the Brave series. There's always a role player, right? Like there's always a role player that carries you through the postseason. For the Padres, it's been Trent Grisham. For the Phillies, we've had moments with Burson Stott. We've had moments with Brandon Marsh. And we've had moments with Gene Segura. So there's been moments all across the board. And I just think it's going to come down to which combination of the two gets the job done for which team. And again, none of us talked about pitching. Not a single one of us talked about pitching.
I think it's too close. Like they're just so close.
And that's what I was going to say. There's just not enough of an edge there.
Yeah.
Where I feel like that can be talked about on the other side. I differ from both of you. I have Phillies in 5.
I'm going to see a clincher.
Well, you're seeing Game 4, baby. So
that's right. No, I'm going to miss it. We're going to listen to a clincher.
We're going to be on the golf course.
We're going to be very drunk on a golf course listening to the Phillies clinch.
I actually think, and call me crazy, but I actually think the Phillies might come back home 2-0.
That would be the most unbelievable. I disagree with you, but that would be the most unbelievable thing that's ever happened.
And the only reason I feel that way is because of the two dudes who are throwing those first 2 games.
Listen, you're absolutely right.
I 100% go back to they have the 2 best pitchers in this series, and it's not close. It's just not close. It's not what it was in the Atlanta series. Atlanta had 2 dudes who could go out. I definitely think Darvish could shut us down, but I could see us putting 5 up on Darvish.
Yeah.
I fully believe that one of those other 3 guys could come out and shut us down, but I could see us putting 5 or 6 up against those guys while Nola and Wheeler are coming out and not giving up anything because that's what they're doing right now. When Nola pitches, it's going to be 97 degrees.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
What are we talking about here? What are we talking about? Phillies in 5. We're going to be talking World Series on Monday of next week, and it's going to be weird.
I will. If that happens, I'm pretty sure I won't have my voice, and I will have to go to my boss and say again what happened to New York. It is wild right now. I wore a Philly shirt today, and I didn't think twice about it, and I'll probably wear one Wednesday, so I'll skip tomorrow. Oh, guys, I am so fired up right now about this team.
And I will say this before we jump into the Phixated. I'm gonna just get your thoughts on before I go into mine. The Phillies both teams are house money right now. Like either team fan base is probably saying whatever happens.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like whatever happens. The Phillies are just entering this like roller coaster of what's to come. Like this is not it for the Phillies.
Yeah.
They have a lot of youth on this team with some good veteran presence, and they have the best minor league pitching prospect in all of baseball who's ready to come too. So this is not the end for either team. The Padres have traded a lot to get where they are. The Phillies have not done that. But it is house money for both teams. It's going to be a fun series, but I don't know that it lasts as long as I can tell you this right now. One thing I do know is Manny Machado will not do well in Philadelphia with that crowd screaming at him. You want to talk about a head case? That dude is a head case. He's not going to do well in Philadelphia with 46,000 people chanting,
Manny. That's exactly what I was thinking.
It is not going to go well for him with that happening. He's just not mentally that type of player. And if I'm wrong, I'll be wrong. All right. So before we go, we just got to do a quick fixated. Regz, I'll start with you this time and turn to Joseph after that. There's been a lot being said about the playoff format the last couple of days since the Dodgers, Mets, and Braves have been eliminated. The Yankees have been postponed officially until tomorrow. But, you know, a lot being said about those 5 days off. Curious to know your thoughts, Regz, and Joseph. Regz, we'll start with you. Where you sit on the playoff format and how these fan bases should be reacting.
It's the only reason we're hearing about this is because three of the teams who have lost have very large fan bases. The Dodgers are like that kind of Dallas Cowboys-ish kind of team. They have a national fan base.
Mm-hmm.
The Braves, you know, obviously have a large fan base. The Mets, obviously being in New York, have a huge fan base. If the Phillies and Padres had been flipped and they had the buys, we wouldn't be hearing about this. And all the people saying, oh, the people who get a buy should be able to pick who they play and all this crap. In the NCAA playoffs, does the number 16, does the number 1 team get to pick what 16 seed they play? Or the 12 or the 12 versus 5 matchup, right? Does that happen? We celebrate those underdog victories in that tournament, but all of a sudden, because the Dodgers and the Mets lose, we got to complain about letting more teams in the MLB playoffs. I, for one, like that they're shorter series because baseball has always been a game that just takes forever. Every series should not be 7 games. The NBA did it. The NBA reduced the first few rounds of the playoffs to 5 games instead of 7. Because it just takes too long. It just takes too long. And say what you will about going on the road and having to play 2 games at home, but then you have 3 games away. The Dodgers and the Mets, you've won over 100 plus games. You came into Philly 1 million times and beat the crap out of us. What difference does it make if you have to go on the road or not after being at home? Don't I'm sick of this complaining garbage just because your teams decided to suck during the playoffs and teams that decided to get hot. That's what happens in the playoffs. That's what baseball is. This is the essence of baseball. Don't give me that just because your hitters went cold, you got to now complain about how the playoffs are set up. If you were in the opposite position, you'd be cheering. So just don't give me all that crap that all of a sudden baseball is wrong and that the playoffs are terrible. No, your team sucked. You lost. Go home, and we'll see you next year.
Well done. Well said. Joseph?
Gotta follow that one. That's gonna be tough. Listen, you didn't win. Roberts, Cohen, Showalter, you didn't win. So guess what? You got to watch the playoffs other years that other teams don't win. I think the 2 words I can think of real simply is sour grapes. Okay. So again, you didn't win. And the Phillies and the Padres and the Yankees and the Astros, well, sorry. The Astros and maybe the Yankees or Guardians are going to win. Yeah, I don't like any playoff format that is going to be the controversy, but I think most of them are anyway. We look at all the other sports. I won't get into it, but the bottom line is win your games and you're in. That is how it should be set up. And you know, they just feel like, oh well, we didn't win, so we're gonna complain about it. Well, again, see you next year. That's how I feel.
All right, so I'll jump in and do my fixated real quickly, and then we'll get on the road here. You had 5 days off, right? And I know what baseball is. Baseball is a game of rhythm. It's a game of, consistency. It's a game that you're used to playing every day. I understand. I'm with all of that. I get it. It didn't seem to bother Houston a whole lot, and I'll just leave that part there. And the Mariners were red hot.
Yeah.
Mariners were playing with a lot of gusto at that point and a lot of confidence. Didn't seem to bother Houston going and sweeping, right? You had 5 days to set your rotation perfectly. You had 5 days to rest. You had 5 days to recover. You had 5 days to kind of get yourselves mentally right, watch the team that you were playing because they were playing a series prior to you. There's really no excuse. If you want to make excuses, here's what I will tell you. Go out and win. Like, it's simple. Win the game. Win the series. Don't come back later and complain because, we had 5 days off. So, that's really hard to come back from. No. It's not difficult to come back from. It's not. It's actually an advantage for you to not have to worry about travel. You can just sit at home. You know what? Go play an inter squad. Go play an inter squad. But it's not a disadvantage to you. Let me tell you what's a disadvantage, Regz and Joseph. I'll tell you what a disadvantage is. A disadvantage is spending your last 17 days on the road. 17 days on the road. You don't get to play a home game for 17 days. And guess what? 10 of those games were playing games. No. I'll correct myself. 14 of those games were playing games. No one's giving the Phillies any credit. No one was making any excuses for the Phillies that they had to play 12 road games just to guarantee themselves a home game. Like, that is a disadvantage. That is a disadvantage. That's something to complain about. There's no reason to complain about having 5 days off. None. I don't want to hear about changing the. I don't want to hear about changing the format. I don't want to hear about next year we're going to do this or we're going to give this team this option or this team that option. Here's your option: win the goddamn games.
Amen, brother.
Don't complain. Yeah. Win the games, and no one will say boo to you.
Right.
Win the games. You have the highest freaking payrolls in baseball. You're more talented. Win the games. It's absolute garbage. It's garbage. And I don't want to hear it again. We spent 17 days on the road. 17. Not a single person has said that. Not one national outlet, not one of these other local outlets that we've played. Not one person has said it. Not even our own outlet has said it. Get out of my face. You're all a bunch of excuse-making piss off ants. Get out of my face. You belong at home. Like, you know Brandon. What? You know what, Snicker? Maybe if your right field superstar decided to back up a ball once in a while and actually gave a crap about his teammates, you wouldn't be where you are. It's crazy that you won a world title without him.
Shush the crowd.
Get the hell out of here. Yeah, you know what? 0 for 9 with 6 strikeouts after he shuts the crowd. Asshole.
Oh, he's one of my least favorite players. You know it.
Well, you know what, everybody? Thanks for listening tonight. We really appreciate you taking the time to listen to us. As always, you can click subscribe below here on the YouTube channel. Make sure you give us a follow on Twitter, or I'll start on Instagram at B&B Podcast. Follow us on Twitter at B&B Podcast. Follow this pod at the Phixated Pod. You can follow me at the Mic Drop 5. Follow Regz at Big Regz with a Z. Make sure you follow us at the Phixated fan page on Facebook. We continue to grow there. We're up around 85, 90 right now. It's awesome. Regz, that Phillies make the playoffs episode is up to like 285 views on YouTube.
Craziness.
Yeah. It's
craziness.
Wild. It's wild.
Love it.
If y'all think that was crazy, wait till they make the World Series.
That's right. Just be prepared.
Be prepared. If they make the World Series, we're coming back from our golf tournament and doing a live show that night.
We are.
Oh, I'm joining.
Well, it might not even be that night. It might be later. I predict it to be that night.
That's right.
Y'all predict it to be that Tuesday.
Yeah.
I'll take it either way, though. So, Joseph, thank you for coming on. We appreciate it. We appreciate you being here. Regz, as always, my friend. Tip of the cap.
Right back at you, brother.
Everybody, make sure that you take care. Be good. Be safe. Be kind to someone. We will see you probably on Thursday night to recap the first two games of this series. We're going to recap the Eagles win over the Cowboys. And we'll even recap a little bit of what's going on with the Sixers because they start on Tuesday. We haven't said shit about them yet, but they actually exist. But we appreciate you so much listening. This is a Phillies episode, so I'm going to say one damn thing. Go Phils. Ring the damn bell. Go Phillies.
Let's go Phils!
Oh, my God. Deep to right field. Way up there and way out of here.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.